You are killing your chances of getting a job offer. Probably. In today's video, I want to cover different points of feedback I've gotten from hiring managers when they've interviewed a good candidate, but there is a reason they've decided not to make an offer and move on to other candidates. These are commonly made mistakes and things that you're probably doing that you should absolutely avoid. Let's go. Now, first and foremost, I've been in recruitment for about 14 years. I have talked to thousands of hiring managers over that time, and I consistently get the same points of feedback. When they've interviewed an otherwise great candidate, but they've determined, I think I need to keep looking or I need to go with somebody else. These are small mistakes in an interview, but they can be huge issues to hiring managers. So let's talk about them. Now, the first one is mentioning your side hustle or side business during the interview. Now, I've talked to so many candidates who have mentioned that they have a side hustle or they have a side business, and that's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's great to have a passion project that also brings you a source of income. However, right or wrong, hiring managers do not like that. I'll repeat myself, hiring managers do not like that. When you tell a hiring manager you've got a side project, what they hear is you have something that is A, going to distract you from your main work on their team, or B, or two, it is going to be something that ultimately pulls you away if that turns into a full-time thing. A lot of candidates think it's a great thing to share. It shows ambition. It shows the ability to think critically, to think big picture, to contribute in other ways, right? There are a lot of skills that need to happen to have a successful side project. And they think by mentioning it, they're going to look like a great candidate, but the reality is, most of the time you are hurting your chances of getting a job offer. The next thing you're doing that's killing your chances of getting a job offer is you are not being direct with your answer, or you are taking way too long to answer a question. This is one of the things that I've heard from hiring managers over and over and over again. You know, Ben, I thought it was a pretty good candidate and they were qualified, but they didn't really seem to answer my questions. I'd ask them something direct, and they would just go on about something else or drone on for a long period of time. Look, hiring managers have short attention spans. And when they're asking you a question and you need to give them an answer, you need to be direct. And you need to make sure that you're actually addressing the question that they've given you. If they give you a question and you go talk about something else that is different and does not address what they asked you about, they're going to assume you misunderstood the question, you're not a strong communicator, you don't actually have the experience, and none of that might be true, but it is what they hear. So make sure that when you're answering questions, you are direct, that you absolutely answer the question, and that you answer it in an appropriate amount of time. There has never been a recruiter, HR person, or hiring manager that has existed in the history of the world that said, I asked a candidate a question, but they didn't answer it, and they took 7 minutes to answer the question. It was amazing. They don't feel like that. Be succinct. Hey, if you are finding value in this video, do me a favor and hit that like button. It is free for you, meaning it doesn't cost anything, and it helps me a ton and motivates me to make more videos like this. It also tells YouTube I don't suck, which I would appreciate you saying. Another thing that is terrible for your chances of getting a job is mentioning your interests in other roles or other positions or other industries in your interview. Look, hiring managers, when they are talking to a candidate, they are very straightforward. They are very simple. They want to hear interest and passion and fit for their role. They want to know that you can solve their problem for the long-term basis. Like, that is what they are interested in. And if you're interviewing for a sales role and you're talking to them about your other passions and the other areas that you might want to explore in your career, they're not hearing that as just a secondary interest. They're hearing this as a person who will not be able to solve their problem long-term because they're going to leave to do something else. Here's the reality. You may never go do that thing. You might do the thing you're interviewing for the rest of your career. That does not matter to them. In that moment, they hear you talking about something else, and what you have done is you've created doubt. You've created doubt that you are going to be a long-term fit and a long-term solution for their problem. So you need to avoid doing that. One of the things I've heard from hiring managers over and over and over again, that they feel like a candidate isn't going to accept their job. They're going to accept another job because they mentioned them in the interview process. As a recruiter, this can be frustrating because you talk to candidates, and just like hiring managers are interviewing other candidates, candidates are sometimes exploring other job opportunities. There is nothing wrong with either one of those scenarios, but hiring managers sometimes view that with a one-sided lens. It's okay for them to talk to 4 or 5 candidates. It is not okay for candidates to talk to 4 or 5 other companies. They feel like they will go down the path, they'll be really interested, and then you'll just choose someone else. Now, why do candidates do this? Well, sometimes they're asked a question, are you interviewing elsewhere? Or how does this opportunity compare to the other opportunities you're currently pursuing? But sometimes candidates also do this because they're trying to establish leverage. They're like, hey, are you interested in this? And be like, oh yeah, I've got a few other opportunities I want to seek out and finish before I make my decision. But yeah, I am looking into other opportunities. My advice here is do not bring this up unless they ask you. There are plenty of other ways that are less risky to your candidacy to establish leverage. And I would say go with one of those, right? Stand out as an amazing candidate who's made great impacts at their previous employers. That will establish leverage. But if you talk too much about the other companies, you do it unprompted, the hiring managers, right or wrong, are just going to hear, they're just interested in other opportunities. They're talking to us, but we're not really where they're interested in going. Again, I would just avoid it unless directly asked. And if you're directly asked, are you interviewing elsewhere? Be brief. Be like, yeah, I've got a few other interviews with people who have reached out to me, and move on. You don't have to dwell on it. You don't have to upsell them. That can actually create risk in terms of your candidacy. This next one is tough, but it's certainly a balance that you have to strike. And that's candidates who are being overly confident, like incredibly overconfident in the interview, talking about how they're the greatest at what they do. They made such an impact, etc., etc., etc. Or talking about their accomplishments and upselling them in a way that makes them seem unbelievable. I've talked to hiring managers so many times over the years where they go, yeah, Ben, this candidate seemed overconfident. He seemed like he was bragging about what he did. And it's hard because in an interview, you do want to share your impact. You want to share your skills, your abilities, and the way you can help them achieve their collective goals if you are hired. But there is absolutely a balance here. You want to make sure that you're saying it in a measured way that doesn't make you seem overconfident, because you express confidence, great. You get to the point of overconfidence and you can knock yourself right out of the interview process. So you need to be careful with that. Another huge issue is candidates expressing any sort of hesitancy on a component of the role that is necessary. So what do I mean by this? So a component of the role that is necessary might be in-person work, right? If it's a hybrid and you're like, well, is it really hybrid or is it remote? Because I'd like to be home all the days, right? Or is it second shift? Saying, yeah, I'm happy to work second shift, but at some point in the future, could this turn into a first shift role, right? Or there's travel and they're like, okay, it's 60% travel. Are you okay with that? Yeah, I'm totally okay with that. But is that something long-term, or in the future, might it drop down to more like 10 or 20% travel, right? Expressing hesitancy in something that they've absolutely said is critical to the success of the role is going to plant seeds of doubt in the hiring manager's mind that you are once again going to be a long-term fit. And they're always looking for long-term fit. It is really important in hiring and finding people who will be a fit for your team for the foreseeable future. It is one of the most critical parts of interviewing. And when you say those things and you express concern about the ability to do something that they consider to be critical in the role, you are absolutely hurting your candidacy. Now, if you want to do the opposite of this and really bolster your candidacy, you want to watch this video here. This video here is how to get a job in 6 minutes. Look, the first 3 minutes and the last 3 minutes of an interview have been proven to be disproportionately impactful in terms of whether you get the job or not. So if you can master those 6 minutes, you're absolutely going to increase the likelihood you get hired. So go watch this.